Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
Welcome to InFocus, your weekly program that delves into the key happenings within and throughout your government. I am Alicia Daniel Blake, filling in for Ian Richards, your usual host, who is on a well-deserved break. This year, CARICOM is celebrating 50 years since its establishment on July 4th, 1973. Last year, we celebrated a significant milestone leading up to this year, marking half a century since the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. CARICOM has become the oldest surviving integration movement in the developing world, reflecting its journey towards deeper regional integration. Our theme today is Unifying Markets, Strengthening Economies, the Journey of CSME. We'll explore the evolution of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, its impact on member states, and the specific involvement of St. Kitts and Nevis. We'll discuss how CSME started, its member states, and key benefits experienced by the Federation. We'll also delve into the role of the Department of Trade, measures undertaken to enhance integration, and the challenges faced. Joining us today to provide insights are Sean Lawrence, the Director of Trade for St. Kitts and Nevis, and Leo Titus Preeville, Director of CSME. They will share their perspectives on the progress, successes, and future of CARICOM. We'll discuss how CARICOM has addressed regional issues like climate change, migration, and public health, and explore strategies to enhance its role in promoting sustainable development and regional security, which have taken place over the last 50 years. Stay with us as we celebrate this landmark anniversary and delve into the legacy and future of CARICOM. It's your government, your business. In Focus.
Attention St. Kitts and Nevis. This July we celebrate 50 years of cooperation, integration and development within our vibrant Caribbean community. CARICOM. Thanksgiving service on Thursday, July 25th. Gather with us at the Sir Cecil Jacobs Auditorium, 6 p.m. as we give thanks and celebrate our vibrant Caribbean community through worship. CARICOM Colors Day on July 26. Let's unite and wear the vibrant colors of the Caribbean and our beloved island. The CARICOM Experience on Saturday, July 27. Join us at the Independence Square at noon for an afternoon filled with art, culture, and the true essence of being CARICOM. CARICOM symbolizes our strength, shared heritage, and unwavering commitment to progress. Join us as St. Kitts and Nevis celebrates 50 incredible years of cooperation, integration, and development in a vibrant Caribbean community. CARICOM.
Wisdom, show me the right. Guide me safely through the night.
Titus Preeville, and welcome back, our viewers. Titus Preeville, first of all, what is the CARICOM Single Market of Economy and Economy? When did it start? And how many member states are part of the CSME?
Alicia, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us as CARICOM Secretariat here to be part of this program. Apologies for the delay. We were caught up in other engagements with the government. Quickly, we're here, I say we, a team from the CARICOM Secretariat headed by Ambassador Wayne McCook, who is the Assistant Secretary General responsible for the Directorate for Trade and Economic Integration, for Single Market and Trade. We're here on a country mission, or meeting with the government from the Office of the Prime Minister to officials in government, to the private sector, to civil society over the next 3 days to support the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis in advancing the CARICOM single market and economy. So that's our purpose here. And to your question precisely, the CSME, as we well know, an acronym now, means the CARICOM single market and economy. The CSME came into being when the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas was signed in July of 2001 in Nassau, Bahamas. But prior to that, we have a history of federation, as we know, going back from 1958, when the federation the early attempts at federation broke up. In 1962, we had CARIFTA, and then we had CARICOM established in 1973. That's why we have, as you mentioned, 50 years. So we would have had 2023 last year would have marked 50 years. So we have a year celebration of this 50 years of what you properly described as the oldest regional integration movement in the developing world. So we had in 1989 we had the Granans Declaration. The heads of government met in Granans in Grenada, and coming out of the work there was a work program which was developed to deepen our regional integration activities, which had really and truly taken the creation of a common market in 1973 with CARICOM. And so the common market arrangements through the program agreed upon in 1989 was deepened to include the creation of a single market and economy. Under the common market arrangements, we had free movement of goods. With the CARICOM single market and economy, what you saw was the inclusion of not just the free movement of goods, but the free movement of services, free movement of people or labor, and also the free movement of capital, and the right to establish a commercial presence.
All right, we'll definitely delve into the free movement of people shortly. Now, Mr. Lawrence, what is the role of the Department of Trade in all of this?
The role of the Department of International Trade, we are the contact point, also the focal point. We are the implementation agency to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis lives up to its obligation signed under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. We ensure that all implementing agencies are able to not only understand the whole concept of CSME, and also the obligation, but also the benefits that comes from this arrangement as well too. So it's an ongoing process. It's not something that you sign off and say we are, but it's continuous engagement with the stakeholders at the national level and also at the regional level.
To follow up then, you mentioned key benefits. What are those specific benefits? Can you outline any of them for us?
Well, you don't have to look far. I mean, the key benefits go from the highest level to the lowest level, from the most complicated to the simplest benefit. For example, the free movement of people. The free movement of people simply means that I can move to another CARICOM member state with minimum red tape, as we will say. We have a CARICOM passport. I can move even an ID. And when I get into another CARICOM member state, first thing when you go on the airport, you will see, you wouldn't say St. Kitts and Nevis line, you see a CARICOM national line as well too. So that itself is also part of the CSME arrangement itself. And when you mention the free movement of people, also mention the free movement of skills as well too. So it also means that where there's skills lacking in St. Kitts and Nevis, we can also benefit from that as well too. And also that St. Kitts and Nevis people can also move and take benefit, benefit in terms of market access and market share. For example, St. Kitts and Nevis in itself is very small. The market is small. So we have access to even Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, St. Lucia, Antigua. to trade our good as well too. He also mentioned the movement of capital and the way to establish a company as well too. So those are the benefits that we see on the way also for SKNIS and Nevis as well too.
All right. So what interests me that you mentioned just now, it's not only the free movement of persons, but also the movement of capital in terms of establishing a business. Mr. Titus Preeville, maybe you could explain a bit more. What does it mean in terms of starting a business in another CARICOM member state?
So let us understand, regional integration has, in our regional integration element in CARICOM, we have 4 components. You have one of the pillars of regional integration is human and social development. Then we have another pillar which deals with crime and security. Then you have another pillar which deals with the economic integration of our region. And that economic integration component or pillar of our region is the CARICOM single market and economy. I said 4?
That was 3.
I think I'm missing one of them, I can't quite remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, because I'm focused on the CSME. So you have a regional integration arrangement, and you have the CARICOM single market and economy as the pillar that is meant to create this economic integration arrangement. Right of establishment and the right to provide services, for instance. Sean would have mentioned that one of the benefits of the CSME is any CARICOM national, or by CARICOM national we mean either a legal entity, a juridical person, or an individual, has the right to move into any member state and to establish a commercial presence in any sector. This is guaranteed in the revised treaty itself. One of the most important elements in the revised treaty is Article 7 of the revised treaty. It deals with what we call national treatment. And under that article, it essentially says if a Kittian national, St. Kitts and Nevis, a national, were to move to another CARICOM member state to establish a commercial presence, that national should not experience any conditions, any rules, face any processes that are different to what a national of, say, Antigua and Barbuda would have faced in Antigua and Barbuda. Or if this Kittian national moved to St. Lucia, they should face the same conditions as a St. Lucian would face in establishing a business of that nature in St. Lucia. So,
nice.
So that gives you a sense. Now, in terms of how easy it is, it all depends in the particular country you are moving to, what are the procedures to establish a business. In some member states, the procedures there might be more steps. In other member states, it might be less. So it all depends on the country you are moving to.
Right.
And quickly, I know we don't have much time, but you had mentioned earlier, you had asked earlier, how many member states comprise? We have 15 member states full member states in CARICOM. We have 5 associate members. That takes us to 20. 5 associate members, 15 full members. But within the 15 full CARICOM members, we have 14 members who are members of the CARICOM single market and economy.
All right.
So that gives Bahamas is the only member state in CARICOM, full member state of CARICOM, that is not a member of the CARICOM single market and economy.
All right. So quickly before we go into a break, Mr. Lawrence, now I would assume that you or your department has its ear to the ground. How are people reacting to regional integration and the thought that it is about to become a reality or has become a reality?
The action, it's different, depending on who you speak to, of course. There is a fear, and I'm sure people have heard this fear, you all have heard this fear, that the movement of CARICOM nationals mean that we'll be flooded with persons, quote unquote, to take our jobs. But that is not the case. The stats doesn't show that, and also as well to that we are afforded the same opportunity as well to go and to apply our trade and our skills as well too. So when you speak to the private sector, they can also tell you the benefits of the free movement of people as well too. So the reaction, depending on who you speak to, how knowledgeable that individual is, then you will get a different reaction. But the overall regional integration is a must. We must benefit from the regional resources, apart from people as well too. Even when you look at regional integration, you're also talking about at the institutional level as well too. For example, look at SEDIMA. SEDIMA, we have COFAP, we have other, even SEXI, if you want to go to that level. So the whole concept of regional integration is something that it is a must as well too. Even to benefit from bilateral trade agreements, we have to go in as CARICOM as well too, because CSME of itself cannot even sign on to those trade agreements. We don't have the resources, the skills that will afford us the privilege or the benefit of trade agreements. So therefore, regional integration is a must. It has to happen. You have to look at the bigger picture to ensure that at the end of the day, as I mentioned, one of the pillars, one of the benefits of real integration is economic development and social economic development as well too.
Now we're going to have to take a quick break, but as you mentioned, CSME crosses all sectors, and that is the core of what we want to get to. So we'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to InFocus. Now, let's continue with this thought that is specific to nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis. How can citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis better understand and benefit from the opportunities presented by CSME, especially regarding freedom of movement? Because we have mentioned two topics that I mentioned stood out to me as an individual, and that was in terms of free movement of individuals, labor, as well as corporate entities. How can they better understand first and benefit from these opportunities?
That's for me? Okay. How can I better understand? The Ministry of International Trade has a focal point. When you come to the ministry, that focal point can explain or give you a full rundown of how can that individual benefit from free movement as well too. It depends on what he or she is looking for. And also as well too, we continue to do public awareness and education and all different theaters around the country, St. Kitts and both Nevis as well too. We also conduct training, for example, border agencies, immigrations, customs, etc. And what we also have to is booklets, etc., because people must understand, like you said, the benefits of free movement of people. And how can they benefit? There are certain categories, 12 categories, which persons can move under. So if they're interested in even coming to or going to a different country which they can move, which they are qualified to move, they can come to the ministry and apply for what we call a skills certificate. So when they apply for a skills certificate, there's a whole committee that is in place that goes through all the documents, etc., to ensure that the person is qualified. So to ensure that when the person go to that specific country, even come to CSME, they can apply the skill.
Right.
So that's how
okay, so Mr. Titus Preeville, so I can assume that all of this is laid out somewhere online in terms of CARICOM. So how do we get to the CARICOM site?
Oh, very easy. You go on www.caricom.org. And under there you would see the tabs and you would see the CSME. We have publications there which outline processes and procedures, how you apply for a skills certificate, which is what Sean was referring to earlier on. And it basically outlines to you how you go about what is required if you were to move from one member state to the other. Because And then before I forget, I did mention we have 4 pillars, and
Yes.
the 4th one came back to me. It is foreign policy coordination. So,
All right.
so these are the 4 pillars on which our regional integration movement is based on. But specifically to the question you asked, Sean, you have written documentation on how to go about establishing a commercial presence. What you need to do, you need to present yourself with your skills. If you're establishing a business, you present your business plan to the relevant ministry. In other words, what you intend to, what area you want to establish a business in. Once you do that, then the process that would have been established in St. Kitts and Nevis, for instance, to establish a similar business, the person moving into St. Kitts and Nevis would have to follow that procedure. Once that is approved, your immigration status would have to be addressed, because every CARICOM national moving into any other CARICOM member state has an automatic right to 6 months stay as a visitor. Within that 6 months, you're not allowed to work unless you have what we call a skills certificate. There are 12 approved categories of skilled nationals who have the right to enter and seek employment. Every CARICOM national, everyone, has the right to go in and establish a commercial presence. So there is no restriction on who can establish a business, but because you'll be working for yourself, basically. There's also no restriction on who can provide a service. So anybody who is a service provider can move in and provide a service. So for instance, if you are a nail technician may have to establish a commercial presence, say an architect, and you are required to come into, you are a Kittitian architect and you want to move to Grenada to provide architectural services because you're required. All you need to do is fulfill whatever rules there are in Grenada for architects to provide services. If you have to enroll, if there is, for instance, a Grenadian Architects Association, and the law requires that you need to register, you need to pay a particular license fee. Once you've done that, you are able to do whatever an architect would do in Grenada.
So let me ask a question between there. If I, for example, I have a friend, as you're using the country Grenada, if I have a friend in Grenada and they know of my capability, I don't necessarily want to establish a business in Grenada, but I want to go into Grenada, do that particular job, and then come back out. Would the procedure be any different?
Absolutely. What you would need to do if you come in to provide a service for your friend in Grenada, under the procedures we had established, which not all member states have actually put in place, but what is there is that your Grenadian friend would have simply issued you with a letter or a contract saying, what's the name?
Alicia.
Alicia and Company, whatever the name of your business. Alicia and Company is coming in to provide design services for my company, and she'll be here for the next 3 months or 6 months to do just that. With that letter, which is technically a contract offering a contract to you for you to come and provide that service, you have every right to come in, and the Grenadian authorities at immigration has to give you the permission to come in, to work, to provide that service. So this is really what obtains on the free movement of services. So I was indicating earlier on, we have under the CSME, the right, we have the regime is founded on free movement of goods, and Sean would have spoken to that earlier in terms of any good that is produced in any CARICOM member state. Once it meets what we call the criteria for originating from a member state, there is no duty applied to it when it crosses over from one member state into another.
Right.
So we have free movement of goods, we have free movement of services, as I was indicating to you. We have the right to establish a commercial presence, and we have the free movement of skills, which is the 12 categories that have been approved, and what other one we're missing? Free movement of capital.
All right.
And capital, the movement of capital is important to support any entity that is, for instance, seeking to establish a commercial presence. So you ought to have the right to move your equipment, you ought to have the right to get access to your money, your resources, to establish your commercial business or commercial presence in the country in which you are moving.
Follow up to that then. In terms of moving of equipment, there will be taxes, government taxes, that a business would have to pay. Would that be affected, or would the natural tariffs that would normally be associated with movement from one CARICOM country to another, would it be the same, or is there some sort of preference that would be given?
Okay, good. Very good question. Because we have accompanying the right to establish a commercial presence. Also tied to that is the right for you to move your managerial and technical staff and their dependents. So this right means they have the right, these people have the right to come in and work without a work permit. They have the right to, the dependents have the right to public education and a number of things. Now these rights are rights what we call contingent rights. So these are rights that your managerial and technical staff will enjoy, contingent on them having moved to support your business as you establish. So with respect to a company that is moving to establish a commercial presence, we have in the protocol on contingent rights, which St. Kitts has signed, an article 3 of the protocol, which is what we refer to as a built-in agenda. Under this Article 3, there is something as an element which speaks to treatment of tools of trade. How do we treat the tools of trade? This Article 3, what we call the built-in agenda, has not yet been negotiated by the member states. So as we speak, we are in the process of trying to move to complete the negotiations on Article 3 of the Protocol on Contingent Rights, which has the element of the tools of trade in it that needs to be negotiated. And we are seeking resources right now to get, and when we speak of tools of trade, what we really mean is, what are the guidelines, what are the rules, what are the procedures that will guide each member state in how they deal or treat with the tools that will be coming into the country by an entrepreneur seeking to establish a commercial presence.
Okay.
So we have not yet completed that as yet. So your question is absolutely on point. How do we treat with taxes? So these are areas we still need to dot our I's and cross our T's on.
Okay, so we'll be hearing from CARICOM shortly.
Absolutely.
All right, and Mr. Lawrence, how does this affect small and medium enterprises then? Because if, for instance, I feel that maybe the cost of living in one of my neighboring CARICOM islands is a little better, can I pick up my business and go? How does this affect St. Kitts and Nevis?
That's a very good question. Let me answer the question by focusing on one of the things that was mentioned by Preeville. He spoke about national treatment. And one of the things you must understand about national treatment is that from a CARICOM member state, whether it's Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, any one of the members, even Trinidad and Tobago, once they enter St. Kitts and Nevis space, they must be given the same treatment as a national. So there must be no onerous administrative burden placed on that individual. The individual have a right to literally take actions. Literally right, because national treatment will be violated. Remember that national treatment also is for St. Kitts and Nevis nationals as well too. So when we go from one member state, we must be given the same right as a national. And therefore, even with small businesses, if I qualify, if I can do specific job to apply my trade, whatever a national goes through, that individual has to go to the same administrative work, etc., to establish a business, but a small business, etc. So the effect of small business, as you see, from what you can see, is growth in the small business area. So, therefore, few amount of people in this regard, in terms of small business, you'll see the growth in the small business sector. If you look around, you can see it's not just St. Kitts and Nevis nationals, as you want to put it, have small businesses. So you can see even in the entertainment industry as well too. artisan, which is one of the categories which people can move. You can see there's it's not just sinkers and not just anymore in this regard, even in food, etc. That's a small business as well too. So it goes as far as that as well too. So once they establish, they can apply the trade. So you can see not only the increase in a specific sector area in small business, but you can see other varieties in this regard. The expansion in different varieties of business offered.
So tell me if I understand you correctly. You are saying that SMEs then are free to island hop, country hop within the CARICOM area and see the best means of making a profit.
Of course.
All right. Okay. We have to take a short break. I know we're getting warmed up
whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
We're really getting warmed up, but we must take a break. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to InFocus. Now, Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Titus Preeville, is it possible for you to provide some examples of, well, maybe Mr. Lawrence, citizens who have benefited from this, from the CSME?
That's a hard question because I don't want to call names.
Okay.
But persons have benefited here in Secrets and Nevis, even in the services, from the services side of things as well too. So it's wide.
Yeah, we have examples. We have CARICOM national businesses that have branch operations in a number of member states. We have some especially in the distributive trade sector. We have establishments across in the construction industry. You have companies that operate in a number of member states. They might originate or have commenced in one country, but they have branch operations in a number of other countries. I'm not talking about the many people who work with a skills certificate in different member states and earning a living and taking care of their families and paying the taxes in the country they have moved to. Because one of the things we sometimes forget, overlook, is that when a CARICOM national has moved from one member state to the other and is gainfully employed, they are contributing to the economy they have moved to. They use water. Someone must provide that water. They have to eat. Somebody has to provide that food. They have to pay for that food. In fact, if you really study the process, a person who moves from one CARICOM member state to the other tends to spend more money in the country they're moving into than the national in his own country. Because you technically have to purchase everything when you move into that member state. The national of that member state may have a number of things, their backyard garden, they have, they don't have to necessarily purchase. So the economic multiplier element of movement of our people, by just by that by itself, movement of persons engaged in economic activity is automatically providing fuel for growth and movement and development of our member states.
So then question, is social security benefits addressed under this, or is that left to the various social security boards in the various countries?
I believe that, one of the things, when I look at our arrangements in CARICOM, our leaders have been very visionary and our efforts have been very, very forward-looking. In 1997, we established the CARICOM Agreement on Social Security. And through that agreement, what it does, it allows for your pension benefits, the benefits that you would have earned in one country for your years of contributing to the national insurance systems in wherever you work. It allows for the totalization of those benefits in the country you finally decide to reside in. So there is what we call the portability of social security benefits. In fact, as we speak, we are looking under the 11th European Development Fund we have established a inter-member state task force comprised of social security entities of the different member states. A task force has been established to work with the CARICOM Secretariat to look at ways we could improve the portability of social security. And one of the things that areas being considered is perhaps the issuance of a unique identifier, a number that could track move with you. And if that does not really work, how could we look at our data sharing processes to make it easier to settle your final payments and procedures when you have decided to retire at the end of your working life. Okay. So social security is really
critical as well.
Yes.
Okay. Any timeline on this?
Well, it is already enforced.
It's already
working.
Enforced. Okay.
So what is not enforced now is the system to make it better.
Okay.
So we are working on this, coming up with this unique identifier or a process of sharing information in a more user-friendly manner to support our people as they move and eventually reside in another member state. Okay.
Now you mentioned the CARICOM skills program in terms of having your, I guess, CARICOM skills that certificate that would be able to go from island to island. Are there any programs that would enhance the skills and knowledge for participating in the region? Is there something that is provided to our CARICOM nationals that would help them? Because you mentioned the whole economic benefits from this. Is there something to encourage them to improve their skills?
Of course. How can we encourage persons to improve their skills? Here in CSME, I'm sure you've heard in the media, the government is making an extra effort and a move, I think by September, to provide our nationals with what we call CVQs, CARICOM vocational qualifications, and NVQs, national vocational qualification as well too. So that in itself will assure that our nationals can show that they have the requisite skills to move within in the community. That in itself is a
in fact, to support Sean on that, the whole idea is that there are we have 12 approved skill categories. Yes. We have 5 in the revised treaty, which was signed in 2001, and since then we have added, and when I say we, the Conference of Heads of Government have added an additional 7 skills. Some of those skill categories do not even require a CARICOM vocational qualification. Okay. For instance, domestic workers, agricultural workers. All of these are categories of workers who have the right to move to seek employment and not require a work permit. What do they need to qualify to move? In some instances, it is an attestation. Okay. So once you have someone to attest that you have been or an institution, for instance, an agricultural worker in your country, and you have worked on a farm, and that's how you've earned your living. A Ministry of Agriculture issuing that type of attestation allows that agricultural worker to move into any other member state and to provide his services, and he would not require a work permit to do so. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And he would have a skill certificate which is issued once. It is you're not required to get one in the country you're going to, and it is a skill certificate issued for life.
Okay, yes. Now time is winding down.
Yes.
So, Mr. Preeville, I have another question for you. How has CARICOM evolved over the 15 years in terms of economic integration and political cooperation among its member states?
I mean, 50 years.
50, yes. I do stand corrected because you did mention that it's a year of anniversary.
Well, right. Well, I'll not go over the history, except to say we have evolved. We have evolved from what was a CARIFTA arrangement between 1968 to 1973, to a common market in 1973 to a single market in 2001. So our regional integration efforts have evolved. We've evolved from only looking at trade in goods to now looking at the single market, which looks at trade in services, establishing businesses. So, so I can say with confidence, over the 50 years of CARICOM, we have seen marked advances in our economic integration, functional cooperation, or human and social development. Most recent example was COVID, where we had, through our protocols under our health arrangements, through our regional institutional arrangements, working with PAHO and the other global organizations, the WHO, we were able to coordinate our efforts at the regional level. And Sean mentioned CXC. And cinema.
So we just want to give Mr. Lawrence his last say as well. Mr. Lawrence, has St. Kitts and Nevis taken optimum opportunity to benefit from some of these CSME arrangements? If not, is there something that can be said to nationals and residents so that they can feel free to make use of the CSME arrangements?
That's very simple. One player can make to St. Kitts and Nevis national is to apply for a SKNIS certificate.
Absolutely.
That's the best advice I can give. Don't just leave it for other persons to apply the skills when they're coming in, but we can also take advantage of the arrangement by applying for a SKNIS certificate.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So we have heard from Mr. Titus Preeville from the CARICOM end, and we have heard from Mr. Lawrence from the St. Kitts and Nevis trade end. And viewers, we would like to thank you very much for staying with us for this In Focus. Do join us again next week for another enlightening show.
Join us every Wednesday for In Focus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. In Focus, your government, your business.